Today we are going to learn how to use the distributive property to multiply. If we look down here at this bubble, it says the distributive property says that multiplying a sum by a number is the same as multiplying each number in the sum by that number and adding the products. I know it sounds a little confusing, but we are going to work through it together. Let's take a look at our problem. The Rails to Trails Preservation opened a new section of a biking trail. The section is 6 yards wide and 1,842 yards long. Calculate 6 times 1,842. When we use the distributive property, all we are going to do is break apart this number right here, our bigger number. And we have 1,842. We are going to write this number in expanded form. So we know the 1 stands for 1,000, plus the 8 stands for 800, plus the 4 stands for 40, and the 2 stands for 2. Once you break apart that number and make it into expanded form, you are then going to multiply each separate part by whatever number we are multiplying by. And if we look up in the problem, our number is 6. Before we multiply, let's take a look at this little picture over here. When we broke apart 1,842, we have our 1,000 right here, our 800 right here, our 40 right here, and our 2 right here. And what we are going to do is we are just going to multiply 6 by each of those numbers. So in this section right here, they're multiplying 6 times 1,000. And over here, we're multiplying 6 times 800. And then 6 times 40, and then 6 times 2. I'm going to start by adding 6 times 1,000. And 6 times 1,000, our basic fact, are 6 and 1, so it will be 6,000. Then we're going to multiply the next part. So we are going to do 6 times 800. And our basic facts is 6 times 8. And 6 times 8 is 48. And then we're going to just add these 2 zeros over here to our number. So we have 4,800. Next, we're going to multiply 6 times 40. And 6 times 4 is 24, and then we have 1 0 in 40. Last, we have 2 times 6, and 2 times 6 is 12. The last step in solving this problem is adding all of these products together, and we call them partial products because they are just part of the answer. So we are going to add up 6,000 plus 4,800 plus 240 plus 12. When you add up your partial products, make sure that you line up the digits. In my ones place, I will end up with a 2. In my tens place, I will end up with a 5. In my hundreds place, 8 plus 2 is 10, so I have to put down my 0 and regroup the 1. And then I have 6 plus 4, which is also 10, plus 1 more is 11. So our answer is 11,052 yards. Since this concept is a little bit more challenging, let's try this problem together. 3 times 5,364. The first step in using the distributive property is taking your large number and writing it in expanded form. Let's start with the biggest place, which would be our 5. And 5 is worth 5,000. Plus, next we have our 3, and 3 is worth 300. Then we have our 6, and that 6 is worth 60. And lastly, we have our 4, which is just worth 4. Now I'm going to put parentheses around this because this is just saying that 5,000 plus 300 plus 60 plus 4 is the same thing as 5,364. And now we are going to multiply this number times 3. We are going to start with the largest place. So first we are going to multiply 3 times 5,000. Use your basic fact, 3 times 5 is 15. And then we're just going to add on the zeros, and we have 3 zeros. Next we are going to do 3 times 300. And 3 times 3 is 9, and then add on your 2 zeros. Next we are going to do 3 times 60. And 3 times 6 is 18. Don't forget the 0. Lastly, we have 3 times 4, which is 12. These are your partial products. Now, the last step is that you have to add them up. And when you do, make sure that you line up the place values. In my ones place, I get a 2. In my tens place, I get a 9. In my hundreds place, I have 10, so you need to regroup. In my thousands place, I have a 6. And in my 10,000s place, I have a 1. So 3 times 5,364 is 16,092. It is much easier when we are able to break apart our number by using the distributive property and multiply the 3 times each of the partial parts of 5,364. Let's take a look real quick at another example. It says find 7 times 560 using addition and the distributive property. So they broke apart 560 into 500 plus 60. Then they multiplied the 7 times the 7 times 500, then the 7 times 60. 7 times 500 is 3,500, and 7 times 60 is 420. Then all they did was add up the partial products, and they got 3,920. You are welcome to read through this side, but I do not want to confuse you, so I'm going to skip over it. Let's take a look at Do You Understand? Question 1. Shade and label the figure to show that 4 times 10 plus 3 equals 4 times 10 plus 4 times 3. If you look at the boxes going down, we have 4 of them. And if you look at the boxes going across, over here we have 10, and then we have 3. So each row across is 10 plus 3 more, and we have 4 rows. That is the same as doing 4 times 10, which is 40, plus 4 times 3, which is 12. 40 plus 12 is 52. You would get the same answer with both of those problems on either side of the equal sign. Look at number 2. Use the distributive property and addition to complete the equation. We have 2 times 308 equals 2 times 300 plus 8. In this problem, we are just going to multiply 2 times 300, then 2 times 8. All I did was add in the 300 and the 8. 2 times 300 is 600. 2 times 8 is 16. And 600 plus 16 is 616. I'm going to do a few more problems with you. Go ahead and cross off number 4. You do not have to worry about using subtraction with the distributive property. Let's take a look at number 3. 509 times 7 equals 500 plus 9 times 7. We are going to multiply the 7 by 500 and then the 7 times 9. 500 times 7 is 3,500. Plus it gives you 63. And 3,500 plus 63 is 3,563. I'm going to do one more problem with you. Let's do 5 times 1,242. If you want to try this one on your own and then check your work, I'm going to do it right now and you can pause the video. Otherwise, if you don't feel comfortable yet, do the problem with me. The first thing we are going to do is break apart 1,242 into 1,000 plus 200 plus 40 plus 2. Then we are going to multiply each of those partial parts by 5. This is how I got the answers. I did 5 times 1,000 and I got 5,000. Then I multiplied 5 times 200 and got 1,000. Then I multiplied 5 times 40 and got 200. And lastly, I multiplied 5 times 2 and got 10. If you add up all the partial products, you will get 6,210. Please complete the rest of the problems on page 109. Then come show me when you are finished.